Hey everyone, it's me again, back at it with another video. This video is going to be on the stories and experiences of an Alaskan Firewatch Ranger, and this was posted on the paranormal board on January 2021, so this is pretty recent. If you want to support the channel, there is links in the description, and as always, pull up a stump with me, and I'll be talking from his point of view now, so thank you for watching. I've been debating whether or not to post this here, since if anyone who knows me reads this, they'll instantly know that it's me, and I signed an NDA, so it'll screw up my future career opportunities, to be honest, but I don't really care anymore. I work as a fire watch in Alaska, and it's pretty boring, but at least it kinda pays well. I get my own little fire watch stand in the middle of nowhere, really. Only contact with the outside world is my huge ham radio, free Wi-Fi, and the guy who delivers my supplies every 2 weeks, which is beer, food, water, etc. Basically, I'm being paid to live in a huge tower, all expenses prepaid, and occasionally look around for smoke or possible fires. The tower's pretty cozy, cool in the summer because of how high up it is, and warm in the winter because it's insulated and has an electric heater. There's no fireplace for obvious reasons. So it's really tall, so I don't have to worry about any of the wildlife. The only thing I'm actually forced to do is the hourly radio checks, and if I don't respond, they send a whole SWAT team to come check up on me. I'll explain why in a bit. You can basically do anything you want up here since there's no one around to actually monitor you. So this happened on the first month of the job. I was kinda spooked because of how isolated I am. So I'm just screwing around and definitely not looking at porn when I hear something huge slam into the bottom of the tower. The whole thing shook. I decided to actually go take a look since I don't want the whole tower collapsing while I'm stranded with the next visit from supply guy in a month. I take the flashlight and my company's standard Remington hunting rifle. I climb down the steps and point the flashlight at the wooden beams that hold the tower up. It's smeared in blood. It looks like the front of your car when you plow through a deer at full speed. There's a mangled deer corpse at the base of the steps. It's absolutely torn to pieces. Only a few patches of skin that are still on it, and there's 2 legs missing. The head has been ripped in 2 from center down. It hardly resembles a deer. I only knew it was a deer because its antlers have been snapped off and shoved into its throat. There are intestines and deer guts stuck in the beams and supports. Something threw the mangled deer cadaver into the beams. And I'm thinking, what the actual F is going on? There's loud footsteps deep in the snow coming from the tree line around the tower. So I'm freaking out as I shoulder my rifle. I pointed at the tree line, and I shout at whatever it is to F off as I slowly back up the stairs. I chamber around and yell out, "I have a gun." I fire a warning shot into the woods and actually hit something. The thing squeals in a high-pitched voice that actually causes my ears to bleed a little bit. I run up the stairs, and something actually runs after me, but I don't turn around. I run inside, lock the door and close the shutters. I hear a loud roaring from the bottom of the tower. It sounds like a cross of a bear's death cry, an elk, and a person getting CBT. The thing starts climbing the stairs, and I'm thinking, oh crap. There's a small gate about a third of the way up meant to stop bears and stuff from walking into the living room while I sleep. It doesn't know how to open it, and I'm thinking, praise the Lord. After about an hour of it trying to push the gate open and it screaming, roaring, or whatever it's doing at me, it finally leaves. I don't go outside until the next day because it could be trying to bait me out. The deer is gone, the guts are gone, the blood smears are still there. There's no tracks because of the snowfall. I go back inside and play Skyrim and pretend it never happened. So I feel like I should elaborate on why the park rangers send a SWAT team to check on you if you don't respond to the hourly radio check. The hourly radio check is basically responding to Tower 1, our coordinator, when he says our tower number. It's really just a roll call. But one time, Tower 4 doesn't respond. It's the 6 a.m. check, so he's probably still sleeping, which is normal for Tower 4. 3 checks later, he's still sleeping. Okay, WTF. Tower 1 says that Tower 8 and I should go check on him if he doesn't respond to the next one since we're the closest. The next check comes and he doesn't respond. Tower 8 rolls up in her Land Rover and drives us to Tower 4. Pull up outside of Tower 4, and there's a huge blood trail leading from the stairs and into the woods. I go upstairs while Tower 8 tries to find out where the blood trail ends. The bear gate has been torn off and is currently up in a nearby tree. And I'm thinking, what? I climb upstairs and slowly enter the living room with my handgun, which we have to keep on us at all times. The door's already open. Or rather, it just isn't there. I enter the room and it's absolute carnage. There's blood and bits everywhere. And there's half a hand on the floor. No body. It seems like something burst into the room, tore up Tower 4 and dragged his body out. Remember that Tower 8 is literally following the trail of whatever could tear through the thick wooden door. I jump down the stairs and yell. She's staring off into the woods with her gun drawn. She says she's not going in there because there are bears and wolves and stuff. And I'm thinking that's pretty wise, pretty fair. I call it in on the radio. An hour later, a literal convoy of armed park rangers arrive and tell us to leave the area. And we never hear about it again. I have to give some random stupid story that he retired at 22 to the other towers. And there's more too. Time to introduce you to the guy. The guy is literally just this guy with a burnt face who wears a suit. It looks like he's been in a fire or something because his face is scarred as all hell. He doesn't ever say anything, he just watches you from a distance, normally from the tree line, and writes something on his clipboard. Every single tower has seen him. Apparently, according to Tower 1, he's been spotted here since the 1950s. I tried approaching him a couple times, but he'll just walk behind a tree or a rock and vanish into thin air. He looks kind of like Jim Carrey mask guy from Metal Gear Solid 6, just without the mask. I've only heard him speak once. I was slowly approaching him from behind, trying to get the jump on him. When he turned around, he looked at me and said, "Cougar," in a Norse or Russian accent before turning around and walking behind a rock. WTF. I turn around, there's actually a cougar a few feet away from me. It's probably been trailing me as I followed him. It runs the moment I put my rifle at it due to fight or flight. I don't know if he saved me or tried to get me killed. Thanks, Jim Carrey. But no one really knows who he is or where he comes from. He just shows up and looks at you, writes in his clipboard and leaves. The closest he's ever got to someone was when he walked out of Tower 3's toilet and just left through the front door, or the time he appeared outside my window watching me sleep. The local Inuit folk seem to know about him, but they refuse to say any more than, "Oh, him, right." Aside from that, he's been here from well before we all showed up, and he has been just a part of the local tribe's life for eons, actually. They won't give the name they have for him or any stories about him. They just tell you to keep your distance and to not piss him off. I know it's boring, but that's pretty much it. You'll see him around 8 times a month, and then he'll disappear for 4 more to go spook other towers. Tower 9 leaves him little goodie bags of spare food, which he's seen him pick up and eat, so I guess that's cool. On one other occasion, I just finished up the 8 p.m. radio hourly check thing, and all the other until 6 a.m. are optional because they realize that we do sleep. I load up Skyrim since it's the only game I can play because the Wi-Fi is down due to all the snow. And I play it for like 2 hours and there's a knocking at the window, but I just ignore it. It's probably the guy or something like that. He does this often. The knocking continues. I ignore it. There's a loud slam at the window, and I'm thinking, okay, you've got my attention, what do you want? I open the blinds expecting to see the guy and his stupid clipboard. He's not there. I scan the windows. Nothing. 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 And I see a child peeking from around the corner. And then nothing. Nothing. And I think, wait a second. I snap back to the window. The kid stops peeking the moment it realizes I've spotted him. I override my gut feeling telling me not to go outside. If there's an actual child out here, then it'll die, and I don't want a frozen kid corpse on my stairs. I open the door and there's nothing. I call out, still nothing. I hear scuttling behind me. I turn around and there's a dead bird on the floor that wasn't there before. There's a gift tag on it. A gift from me to you. Okay, this is weird. I go back inside, but I bring the bird with me because I don't want to piss off the ghost kid. I shut my blinds and I go to sleep. I still occasionally get knocks at my window at god-awful hours of the night from time to time, with little dead bird gifts every 4 knocks. On another occasion, I was going for a walk around the forest because I was kind of bored of being cooped up in the tower all day. So I tell the radio that I'm going on a walk so that they don't send an army if I don't respond to the roll call. It's summer now, so there's no snow, but I still bring the rifle because bears and stuff. I have fun taking pot shots at deer to scare them a bit, and I stumble across this huge camper van. We're not accepting campers because of COVID, so I go investigate to make sure it's not a hobo or a cultist, and I'll get into that soon. The place looks old, like it's been left for a while, but it looks kinda new. I decide to actually go inside after checking some of the tents that are around the thing outside. It looks like someone's actually been living here. There's empty cans in the corner, there's a sleeping bag on the couch, and I'm thinking, what is this? Surprisingly, it doesn't stink. But there's an old diary on the table that looks like it's been there for a while. So I take a read. It's from one of the people who actually used to work here. He got promoted from fire watch to park ranger and then retired. I have fun reading through his journal because it's about him coming back because he missed the openness of the forest. He starts talking about some guy in a suit in the woods, realizes probably about the clipboard guy. He mentions chatting to him, and I'm thinking he doesn't do that, but okay. And you know, the diary is pretty cool, and the last entry is from just a few days prior. He says he's going on a hike tomorrow to look for it, and there's no entries after that. I leave because it's getting late, and I go back a few more times to check up on the place, and nothing changes. He never comes back. A few weeks later, I basically kind of forgot about it because of my duties. On a roll call, when someone mentioned that an old colleague went missing, and I'm thinking, oh, who was it? It's the journal guy. Wait, what? It's been months and I still haven't found him. I gave the journal to the park ranger in case it would help. They sent me an email the next day saying that I shouldn't tell anybody about it or the campsite, and if I do, it'll violate my NDA. And I never told them about the campsite. I don't know how they knew about it. His name was Roger, and he worked in Tower 11. Now this one is about the cultists in the area. One day I get a call from Tower 8, and I'm thinking, oh, what does she want now? And she says, get to the lake right now. So I'm like, okay, sure. So I walk down to the lake, and the park rangers are holding up a group of robed figures at gunpoint while local police call something into the radio. The guy from Tower 5 is also there, but he looks awful. Then I realized that there were a bunch of stone pillars that weren't there yesterday, and I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? So I go ask one of the park rangers, and he's surprisingly chill. He explains that the Tower 5 guy had gone for a walk through the 4th sector, the area that me and Tower 8 manage, and happened upon the robed guys sacrificing a wolf. The robed guys proceed to flip their shit. One runs at him with a knife and stabs him in the thigh. Tower 5 guy proceeds to shoot him in the chest. All the other robed guys are now peeing their pants because Tower 5 guy has a semi-automatic rifle and is now screaming at them as his leg starts bleeding. Tower 8 hears the commotion and calls it in. That's when the park rangers arrive and hold them all hostage. They pull the shock guy into one of their trucks and provide first aid for him. The Tower 5 guy is a former Spetsnaz who was living out the rest of his days in retirement in the Alaskan woods. Go figure. So he's perfectly fine. He did all the first aid himself while he was warding away knife-wielding cultists. The park ranger tells me to leave, and I'm not really going to argue with the park ranger, so I just leave. I fill Tower 8 in once I get back. I later find out that the robed guys got off scot-free because one of the people in the local police force is a member of their cult and used his administrative powers to save them from jail. All they ended up having to do was tear down their stone pillars and promise to never come back, and they could leave. Apparently their cult is the third largest, quote, faith in the region, with the native religion and Christianity ahead of it. They worship some water god called Malak or something. I don't really know the name. Sounds a little close to Moloch, if you ask me. So for anyone wondering, the local natives have a pretty small pantheon of gods. It comprises of Thal, the god of the snow. He's like an allfather type figure. He's the king sitting on a throne made of pine trees. There's Tomaka, speaker of Thal. Thal doesn't speak in a way that humans can understand, so Tomaka translates for them. He's a guy wearing a bird mask who's in a dress with no armholes and has a scabbard to his left side. There's Flumeni, the wife of Thal. She's the god of warriors, mothers, and lakes. She's a woman with one arm, riding on a huge elk that's larger than a tree. And there's Tati. The natives refuse to say his full name, so they just shorten it. He's the god of fire, rot, mold, and decay, who's currently chained at the bottom of the lake in my sector. He has cougars and other lesser gods to do his bidding, since he can't do stuff under the lake. Thal, Tomaka, and Flumeni all live in the mountains away from the humans because their voices scare the humans. They're all mute aside from Tomaka. On a particular dark occasion, my girlfriend had left me at the time and I was deep in a depression. I have no friends because the job means I'm far away from anyone for months at a time, and the isolation is starting to get to me, and I decide that enough is enough. I take a rifle and I head into the woods. I find a nice clearing to do what I'm going to do. I put the barrel in my mouth and I'm about to pull the trigger when I hear footsteps. I turn around and see an old man with a huge white beard, wearing a bear pelt robe, approaching me. I quickly hide the rifle because I can't bear the embarrassment of being caught failing at killing myself. The dude walks up and says, "Can I sit with you, child?" in a deep German accent. I say, "Sure thing, Santa." The man chuckles and sits with me. He's got a cool-looking eye patch on one of his eyes, and he just starts talking to me, just a casual conversation. I talk back, we're chatting about sports, etc. He eventually asks me what I'm doing out here on my own. I say I'm hiking. He says he knows that I'm lying. I proceed to vent to the old man about how awful my life is, and the old man comforts me. I realize the old man has a pet bird on his shoulder, and I'm thinking, oh wow, that's pretty badass. The man says his name is some bizarre Swedish name that I couldn't understand. I feel happy now. I'm no longer depressed. I finally have a clarity on life. The old guy says he has to leave now, and I say, okay, bye. He gets up, walks over to a thin tree, waves, and walks around it, and vanishes. WTF. I go check. There's no way he could have just walked from the thin tree and just disappeared before he reached the other side. But after this, I take the rifle and I go home, and I haven't felt suicidal since, so thanks, Santa. So over time, I asked around the other towers, and I kind of collected some of their stories too. So this one is from Tower 3, and he's one of the local natives. The company that I work for did a program to include more of the local natives, probably for public image knowing them. Unfortunately, the program didn't do very well because the natives see the forest as a holy site and that's sacred, and they don't want to work in it or near it. This probably has something to do with the fact that their version of the devil is literally under one of the lakes in the park. So the Tower 3 guy, we'll call him Ricky since it's kind of close to his real name, is one of the only natives who actually signed up for the program. He was sent to replace one of the Firewatch guys who, quote, retired. He gets there and sets up shop in the tower. He decides to explore the local wilderness a little bit. He says it was actually his first time that he'd actually been to the forest, and he wasn't expecting it to be so peaceful. He had only ever heard stories about it. So he's just basically just walking around, hiking, exploring, finding old campsites and all this other stuff. But then he notices something moving in the distance, and he locks eyes on it, but he can't see it anymore. The same thing happens like 7 times. He is now certain that something or someone is following him. He hears leaves rustling every now and again, and he says, okay, screw this. He heads back, hearing the rustling, all the way back, and he's really spooked. He gets past the tree line. There's a clearing that surrounds every tower, and he looks back. There's a literal clone of him staring back at him. He mimics his every move perfectly, all the way down to the breathing at the same time as him. It's him, just mirrored. He says, "Who the F are you?" It says it back, in his voice. He slowly walks back toward the tower. It follows. He says, "Stay back." It repeats, "Stay back." He pulls out his gun. The thing doesn't have a gun, so it just mimics him holding the gun without an actual gun. It speaks, "You back." He asks him what he's doing in the woods because the park is closed for the season. It just says, "You come back woods." He's thinking, what is going on? He asks what he's trying to do. It just says, "You come back to the woods." The thing starts moving on its own. "See you soon." The thing runs into the woods, and he never sees it again, but he still has nightmares about it, and to be honest, I can't really blame him. So on one occasion in the past, it was camping season, so every night I have to deal with drunk teens and poachers, and I'm just chilling when the radio pings, and I'm thinking, oh, what do they want now? I put the headphones on. It's one of the lead park rangers, and I stiff up, and I'm like, oh crap. He says, "We've got some missing campers in your sector. We're sending Tower 8 and 5 over to help. Tower 5 is, again, the Spetsnaz guy. He's coming because me and him are the only people in Firewatch who know anything about tracking or finding missing people. At this point, I'm basically a veteran forest ranger. Tower 8 is coming because it's also her sector, and it's also her responsibility to go find the campers. The park rangers can't do it themselves because they have their hands full at the moment. And of course, they're never there when you actually need them. So I wait for Tower 8 to arrive so we can actually go pick up the Spetsnaz guy. And we start heading towards where the campers said they were going to be camping at. And there's mangled animal corpses all along the road every couple of minutes. And they can't be roadkill because they don't look run over. I don't mention this since I don't want to spook the other two out. We arrive at the campsite, and we park along the road and kind of haul ass over to the area where the tents are, etc. They were camping in the middle of nowhere, so their campsite is in a tiny clearing in the middle of a dense woodland, and I'm thinking, oh, freaking teenagers. We shout to see if anyone's there, and there's no response. We check all the tents, and it looks like that everyone left in a hurry. There's clothes everywhere, spilled food, etc. Where did they go? What is this? After a few minutes of searching, we find one. He's up in a tree, and he's butt naked, and he's neck deep in panic. The guy is freaking out. We ask where the others are. He just says they went into the woods. And I'm thinking, oh, great answer, very helpful. The Spetsnaz guy in Tower 8 try to get him out of the tree as I go look for the others. We're walking back to the campsite, and I see something on a bench. I decide to have a quick look. It looks like a wet jumpsuit or something. It's folded really neatly, like in a posh English hotel or something. I pick it up and unfold it, and it's not a jumpsuit. It's human skin. It looks like what would happen if you scooped out everything from a corpse so it's just an empty skin suit. Like the dick and the balls and theirs and everything. It's like, what the hell am I seeing here? I drop it. It's still fresh. The blood hasn't even coagulated yet. I immediately call it in on my radio. The park ranger on the other end goes from bored and uninterested to full panic mode within a few seconds of me explaining. I just kind of put it back on the bench. I don't know what else to do with it. The park ranger says they'll be there any second. 5 and 8 heard what was happening through the comms, so they've already bringing the teen to 8's Land Rover. They give him some clothes because he's naked, and that's not something that I want to see. The guy just keeps rambling about how they went to the lake and pissed him off. He isn't talking about himself based on the way he's talking about him. I asked him why he was in the tree. He says, he put me there. The guy's bawling his eyes out while rambling. For the first time ever, the Spetsnaz guy looks actually concerned. The park rangers arrive, and there's a full convoy of the guys armed to the teeth. They tell us to get out of the area and give them the kid. We oblige, not wanting to, face whatever wrath they have. So we GTFO out of there. Later we find out the skin belonged to one of the 9 kids who went missing. The rangers found 2 more skins floating in the lake. There was no trace of the other 6 people. I have to explain to the grieving parents that it was a bear attack, which was obviously not true. The one teen that survived was sent to a mental hospital because his brain is completely screwed up, and I never hear anything about it ever again. So I don't know about you, but I had a good time reading that one. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, thank you for pulling up a stump with me. There's links in the description if you want to support the channel, and I also thank you for watching. And on my note, I think the guy that he met in the forest was like some kind of, Nordic forest spirit or something. I don't know. It was pretty wild. Anyways, have a good night or day or wherever you are. And once again, thank you for watching.